All right, welcome back to another explainer. Today, we are about to dive into a discovery that completely changes our understanding of early human history. For years, we thought we knew the timeline, right? How humanity evolved from wandering tribes to settled civilizations. But beneath the soils of southeastern Turkey, an ongoing excavation is literally rewriting the textbooks as we speak. So get ready, because this is much, much bigger than just one ancient temple.
Here is our roadmap for today's explainer. First, the Stone Hills Project. 2. The Monumental Twin Centers. 3. Bizarre Art and Rituals. 4. The Dawn of Farming. And 5. Expanding the Ancient Map.
So, I want to start by hitting you with a pretty wild fact. For a long time, the famous site of Göbekli Tepe was treated as this standalone ancient wonder, a bizarre anomaly in the timeline of human history. But actually, it isn't. It's really just one of 12 distinct focus settlements that all belong to the exact same incredible prehistoric network.
And guys, the scale of this network is it's absolutely staggering. These 12 settlements span a massive 100 square kilometers across the Şanlıurfa region. To put that into perspective, that's an area roughly the size of Paris. We aren't just looking at some isolated little tribe here, we are looking at a vast, interconnected landscape of early humans who are actively sharing ideas, building massive structures, and completely changing the way they lived.
Section 1. The Stone Hills Project. Okay, let's dive into this by taking a macro view. The Taş Tepeler, or Stone Hills, initiative is currently the world's largest prehistoric archaeology project. Coordinated by Professor Dr. Necmi Karul, this massive undertaking is basically the ultimate key to understanding how our ancestors first started building monumental architecture. It perfectly captures that highly critical window of time when humanity transitioned from a nomadic hunter-gatherer existence into settled communities with incredibly complex belief systems.
Moving right along to Section 2, the Monumental Twin Centers.
To really wrap our heads around the sheer ambition of these early builders, we need to zoom in on the two superstars of this 12-site network, Göbekli Tepe and Karahantepe. Built during the pre-pottery Neolithic period, these two contemporary sites were essentially the grand stages of early human civilization. We're talking 9600 BC for Göbekli Tepe and 9400 BC for Karahantepe. I mean, think about that for a second. These monumental centers were thriving thousands of years before the very first block was even placed on the Great Pyramid of Giza. Let's take a closer look at Göbekli Tepe. The site is divided into these distinct circular enclosures. Over in Structure A, we find dense snake reliefs. Structure B gives us fox figures. Structure C is dominated by wild boars, but Structure D, that's really the star of the show. It features 12 pillars surrounding two towering 5.5-meter-tall T-shaped pillars. And what's fascinating is that these beautifully carved T-pillars actually symbolize stylized human figures, complete with arms, hands, and belts, standing smack in the center, totally surrounded by the wild, untamed animal kingdom. And this brilliantly illustrates the difference between the two sites. While Göbekli Tepe was heavily obsessed with the animal kingdom, featuring these high-relief carvings of cranes, vultures, leopards, and scorpions, Karahantepe takes a totally different path. Karahantepe focuses intensely on human-centric and ritualistic 3D architecture. It features a massive 23-meter public gathering space carved directly into the bedrock and this deeply mysterious pool area filled with 11 phallic pillars and a giant human head protruding right out of the wall.
Which leads us perfectly into Section 3, Bizarre Art and Rituals.
That brings us to their belief systems. Let's explore some of the slightly eerie, surreal discoveries uncovered across these sites, because the findings here are as shocking as they are fascinating. At a site called Yeni Mahalle, archaeologists found the Urfa Man. Dating back to 9000 BC, this is a 1.8-meter tall statue, actually the oldest known full-sized human statue in the world, and it's staring forward with these eerie eyes made of black obsidian and hyalite quartz. At Cyberch, they found a unique human head statue with a mouth that appears stitched or tightly closed. And over at Sefertepe, there is clear-cut evidence of a prehistoric ancestor death cult. Human skulls intentionally stripped of their lower jaws were found carefully placed inside specially designed wall cavities. So yeah, definitely not your standard home decor.
But the art here, it isn't just static. It tells incredibly vivid stories. Take the Cyberch scene, for example. It's an incredible panoramic wall relief that was found directly beneath the modern houses of a village today. It shows a male figure holding a bull or a gazelle, tightly flanked by two roaring leopards. It vividly captures how early humans depicted their dominance over, or maybe even their terrifying struggle with, the forces of nature. Now, what's really interesting about this next slide is how these artworks reveal complex spiritual practices. At Karahantepe, we find intense shamanic artifacts. There's a 2.3-meter monumental statue of a seated man, complete with detailed ribs and a spine, gripping his phallus. Even more striking is a stone sculpture depicting a human carrying a vulture on its back, a really powerful showcase of the deeply shamanic interactions between humans and birds that permeated all their rituals.
All right, shifting gears a bit. Section 4, the dawn of farming.
So, we've seen their ancient death cults and massive temples, but now we're pivoting to what is arguably the single most important technological leap in human history, the invention of agriculture. The Taş Tepeler project literally allows us to map the exact architectural transition of human evolution. Step 1 is represented by Çakma Tepe, where we see mobile, rock-carved shelters and early hunter-gatherer camps. Step 2 is that era of Göbekli Tepe and Karahantepe, where people came together to build monumental gathering temples. And Step 3 takes us to Gö Tepe, where we finally see the emergence of permanent, settled mud brick homes.
Gö Tepe is where we see this lifestyle shift completely. Here, archaeologists found rectangular mud brick walls sitting on stone foundations, complete with storage cellars. But even more importantly, they found polished stone axes, grinding stones, and the bones of cattle, sheep, goats, and pigs that show clear signs of early domestication. This site marks the very moment humanity learned to domesticate livestock and build real, permanent homes.
So why does this progression actually matter? Well, because when you contrast the advanced farming tools of Gö Tepe with the findings at Çakmak Tepe, you realize just how far they leaped in a relatively short amount of time. Çakmak Tepe gives us hundreds of primitive arrowheads from open-air flint workshops, heavy limestone mortars, and jewelry made from pierced wild animal bones. It totally cements our understanding of exactly where these people started out before they mastered the land.
Let's zoom back out for Section 5, expanding the ancient map.
We've obviously covered the heavy hitters of this region, but the true power of the Taş Tepeler project lies in its vast interconnected web of remaining sites that expand the ancient map. Take a look at these additional locations. At Harbutsuvan Tepesi, we find ritual areas packed with atypical votive statues and phallic objects. Yogunberç and Kurt Tepesi reveal bedrock carved with T-pillar slots and massive chipped stone industries. And at Ayınlar Hoyuk and Mendik, which are the newest additions to the project, we see monumental rock structures that physically expand the borders of this hunter-gatherer network. This proves early humans were organizing, mining flint, and building monuments across a massive, unified geographic area.
So the crucial point is this. We really can't look at early human history as just a series of isolated accidents anymore. These 12 interconnected sites collectively tell the definitive story of our civilization's birth. The Stone Hills Project is the ultimate, unbroken record of how we went from wandering the plains to building temples, domesticating nature, and laying down the very first foundations of the modern world.
Which leaves us with one incredibly exciting thought to chew on. The excavations in the Şanlıurfa region are really only just beginning to scratch the surface. We've mapped out a 100 square kilometer network of human ingenuity. But if these 12 sites have already completely rewritten human history, what still lies buried beneath the Stone Hills? Let that sink in and definitely keep your eyes on the Taş Tepeler project. Thanks for joining me on this explainer, and I'll catch you on the next one.